She's back.
Who?
They're back.
Both of them?
After 25 years, the most popular Disney star of all time reprises her favorite dual role as Sharon and Susan. Catch a glimpse of behind-the-scenes action as we join Hayley Mills on location in Parent Trap 2.
Parent Trap is definitely one of my favorites. It was great fun to do it. It was exciting, in a sense, to work at that pace and that rate. I've never worked so hard in such long hours. My feet hardly touched the ground for 3 weeks. But it was good. It creates a lot of energy and adrenaline. That man over there is my husband.
You mean ex-husband?
No! I mean my husband. My current, sleazy, out with another woman husband.
Susie. Susie?
Susan. Sharon. Sharon.
Two?
Oh, Susan comes from California, lives in California, was brought up in California. So she is much more a kind of California girl. You know, she's a bit more upfront, relaxed. What did I tell you? Care to apologize? And Sharon, who lives in Tampa, is much more conservative. Oh, I do love roses.
Hayley made her Disney debut at the age of 13 and received a special Oscar for her role in Pollyanna.
It must make you awfully glad.
Glad?
But you're so very rich.
She triumphed again 1 year later in The Parent Trap, and as a result became the world's most famous teenager. A string of Disney hits followed as Hayley blossomed into a beautiful young actress.
Very fond of Walt, and he had a very nice way with me, with children. You know, had a great kind of element of the child in him that he never lost and never denied. He had a wonderful belief in the good in all human beings, and that is what he wanted to remind people of.
Action! For years, the Disney studios considered filming a sequel to the 1961 hit The Parent Trap. So why did it take so long? Well, in this case, it took time to search for a good script.
Suddenly this script dropped on the mat, and because I wasn't expecting it, and I read it without having had all these talks and transatlantic telephone calls, I was really thrilled, and I read it with a very fresh mind.
Stu Krieger fulfilled his fantasy by writing the script.
I was a tremendous Hayley fan as a kid. It was really my first crush and my first, wow, you know, a pretty blonde girl. That's interesting. And really was, you know, through the period, especially her Disney years were the same years that I was, you know, had the crush and all of that. So I knew a lot of what evolved into Hayley trivia. And when I did the script, I thought it would be really fun to see who else was as obsessed as I had been, and named a lot of the characters and then a lot of the locations and a lot of the places for things either from her other movies or things from her life, and wove them through. The two little girls, Nikki and Mary. Nikki Ferris was the character she played in The Moonspinners. Mary Grant was the character she played in Search of the Castaways. Originally, the restaurant was called Pendergast, and that was the old man in Pollyanna. And they were, I think there's like 10 or 12 of them. We were going to actually make that the contest on the set to see, you know, who can pick out the most Hayley trivia and win a jar of jelly beans or something.
It's about us.
Us?
Tom Skerritt co-stars as a victim in a matchmaking scheme.
There is you and there is me, but no us.
Oh, right. Comedy is best coming from a situation, not trying to play it. A guy is caught in the comedy of errors, the comedy of mistaken identity, and what that does, how you have to deal with that. What is my reality? From 1 minute to who are you and who are you, and that sort of thing. It goes on throughout this whole picture.
My car broke down the market, that's why I had to call a cab.
Where are the kids?
What kids?
Go for it, Mom.
Carrie Kai Hine plays Haley's daughter and conspires with best friend Bridget Anderson to unite Haley and Tom.
Are we moving?
I play Haley Mills' daughter. She plays my mother and aunt.
We watched Parent Trap here because Carrie hadn't seen it before. So we watched it with her. And then it's funny watching that and then seeing Haley now. And it's like, oh my gosh, because she's so much of the same person.
I try never, even with child actors, to give them a line reading, because then they'd be working from the outside in, and I don't find that a satisfying way to work. So I try to lead them through it so they find what the scene is about and what their character is about themselves.
We asked Haley about how child actors have changed through the years.
The first difference that comes to mind is that child actors were expected to remain children for longer, probably, than was actually natural. Whereas now, children are expected to play parts that are too mature too soon. In my case, my childhood was definitely very protracted. Not such a bad thing, really. I mean, when you think you're grown up forever.
Haley remembered a story from her own childhood involving Walt Disney.
First time I went to Disneyland, I went with him. We went to the head of all the queues. And, in fact, we went to the head of the queue for the Matterhorn, and this man came rushing out. Said, hey, wait a minute. He said, hey, wait a minute, Buster. Who do you think you are, Walt Disney? And Walt said, well, yes, as a matter of fact, I am. And the man shrieked and collapsed into the geraniums.
Parent Trap 2 was filmed on location in Tampa, Florida. 14-hour days for the cast and crew were the norm, and director Ron Maxwell battled the clock to use every drop of sunshine for outdoor scenes. There was no time to enjoy a glorious Florida sunset, for as the sun melted into the horizon, the crew was setting up scenes to be shot indoors.
I must admit that there were some mornings when it was a little bit hard to kind of kick-start yourself, because we did work from between 12 and 15 hours a day. And, you know, that's quite a deadly. The first week's fine, it's all very exciting. The second week, kind of, you think, are we going to keep going like this for the rest of the 3 weeks? And then by the time you got into the third week, you've kind of adjusted.
Because of the incredibly packed shooting schedule, everyone had to do their job quickly and efficiently. And as they say, time is money. So the director ran a tight ship. There was no time for frivolity.
Oh, Danny boy,
People have asked me, what's it like doing it all over again, you know, as if it was sort of like repeating the original experience. And it isn't at all, because it's a new life and it's a new world. And what's happened to these girls in the last 25 years?
And what has happened to Haley since her last Disney film?
The last 10 years have been rather kind of peaceable. You know, I've done a lot of things in the theatre that I've really enjoyed, and been able to spend a lot of time with my family.
I've tried, Mother. Honestly, I have. But I just don't understand.
Well, darling, it doesn't mean that your father and I didn't love each other. But sometimes, even when people think a lot about each other, they sometimes just don't get on together.
And The Parent Trap related to a subject that an awful lot of children could identify with, and made the children less of victims of the situation. I've met an awful lot of people since that say, you know, that had a very, you know, strong impact on their lives and on their own situation. And anyway, it's wonderful to meet people who remember you from their own childhood, because it gives you a very special place in their lives.
Get in positions, please.
In film, the picture is painted with lights. And on a movie location, lighting takes the most time to set up. But it's crucial. Since Parent Trap 2 is a contemporary comedy, Ron Maxwell and his director of photography, Peter Stein, decided to create a warm look to the film. Peter, in turn, worked with the lighting director to achieve the proper mood for each scene, whether it was on a boat, in a church, or in a school, lighting played an important role.
Holy smokes.
In the original Parent Trap and in Parent Trap 2, Haley appears as twin sisters together in the same scene.
2.
The term for this bit of movie magic is called a split screen shot.
So that's when I called Brian and asked him to help me give you a taste of your own medicine. When I saw you walk into that restaurant, I about died.
In this film, we happen to be using an old-fashioned technique, but when it works, use it. And this is a technique where you really are shooting the same image twice. It's quite simply a double exposure, so that you can see Miss Mills as both characters at the same time.
The problem is, from the actor's point of view, is that you have, when you're doing the separate sections, because as you know, you film one side of the screen like this, and then you rush off and change and get another hairdo and another frock on, and then you film the other side of the screen, is that you instead of having the complete area to work in, you only have half. So you can't suddenly make an expansive gesture like that because your arm's cut off. If you're not careful, you become more bogged down with the technical side of it than actually what's happening in the scene. It's terribly confusing because Susan comes to Tampa to impersonate Sharon. So it's Susan impersonating Sharon, which is terribly confusing. Don't ask me how I do that. I don't know.
And action.
If you've ever fantasized about being a movie director, now's your chance. Just slip into Ron's shoes. Okay, you've got to shoot a scene in a school hallway with Bridget and Carrie. First, you need a hallway. Ah, this one looks good, but you need to dress it up a bit more. Ah, good move. Having your prop people decorate the walls with school stuff. Brilliant. Now you need school kids to be extras. Uh-oh, things seem to be getting a bit out of hand. Better delegate some authority. Ah, that's it. Have your assistant director work with the kids. Oh, and remind him to tell them that movie making is a serious business. Time to rehearse. First without the camera, then with the camera. Good thinking. Stand-ins during rehearsal help Bridget and Carrie conserve energy.
Kids can't walk in front of them.
Something's not quite right, but you'll figure it out.
I push all the doors open or shut. The kids are getting crowded. Open.
Hey, that's why you get the big bucks. Now it's time for a take, and you say...
Action.
So you shoot the scene, and you shoot it again, and again, and again. Just one more for the road. Finally, you've got it.
Perfect, kids. You kids are perfect. Everybody in the background. Same way next time.
Next time? Boy, you are a perfectionist. But that's why you're the director and I'm the announcer. So you try it one last time.
Cut, print.
That's a wrap. Now you can finally relax. You just finished your last shot. Great job. A little celebration's in order.
Somehow it all gelled beautifully out there in Tampa. The children, Carrie Heim and Bridget Anderson, were both little darlings. Ronald Maxwell, the director, was so lovely to work with and enthusiastic about the project right from the very beginning. You know the story of Stuart Krieger. It's like he was the right person to write the script. So it was like all the component parts, but all the right ones.
25 years after the original movie, it's finally here. This summer, treat your family to Haley Mills in Parent Trap 2.
Coming up next, join host George Plimpton as he introduces classic Disney cartoons on Masterpiece.